0. Okay, I was waiting for you to give me a thumbs up. Hey, my name is Matt Crossan, and I'm here in Fairfield, Pennsylvania with some of my closest friends from Ends of the Earth Cycling. Got to spend some time with them, and I'm so honored to be opening up for the State of the Union here for Ends of the Earth. Justin asked me to sing a song to get us to start off. This song is called Be Brave, Be Strong. It's a song I wrote with some friends in Nashville, Tennessee this past year. And it's a song that would just say that if you're looking for some courage, if you're looking for some strength, we need to realize that God is the one that provides that strength for us. We stand here ready for battle. We know our victory is in your hands. So now we're waiting with full assurance that you will rescue once again. You said, be brave now, warrior. You will not fight alone. Stand up, move forward. This battle's not your own. Lock in your courage. Now let me be a song. Be brave and be strong. Be brave and be strong. Be brave and be strong. No more excuses. They can't define us. Our past behind us. You called us out into the open where fear is broken. Let this surrender be our soul. Be brave now. You will not fight alone. Stand up, move forward. This battle's not your own. Lock in your courage. Now let me be the soul. Be brave and be strong. Be brave and be strong. Be brave, be strong. When we're singing this song live, this is the part where the audience will participate. And I know it's a little awkward being on a Facebook Live because I can't hear you and you can only hear me. But maybe you'd whisper, you just sing to yourself, be brave, be strong. Be brave, be strong. Sing it out. Be brave, be brave, be strong. Be brave, be strong. Sing, be brave, be brave. You never leave us. You won't forsake us. We're not abandoned, but love. You're always present. You're always able. The war is over. You've won. Be brave. Be strong. Be brave. Be strong. You said, be brave now, warrior. You will not fight alone. Stand up, move forward. This battle's not your own. Lock in your courage. Now let me be the soul. Be brave, be strong. Be brave, be strong. Be brave, be strong. Be brave and be strong. Thanks, guys, for joining us. And I want to introduce Mr. Justin Hannikin.
Yay, Justin! All right, thank you to our dear brother Matt Crossan, who is part of our honorary crew at Ends of the Earth Cycling. He's a friend that sticks closer than a brother. He's been on 3 tours this year. And shout out to his church, Crosswind Church in Union City, Tennessee. Thank you for letting our brother be here with us these days to minister to our crew. And that song is powerful. It's coming out of the book of Joshua. You can check it out on iTunes, on Spotify. It's called Be Brave, Be Strong. And Matt is writing some incredible songs for the kingdom. And I want to encourage you to check those out. At this time, we're going to enter into a short time of devotion. I'd like to throw down a little Bible study real quick with you out of Psalm 37. And, I was listening recently to Dr. David Jeremiah, and he was talking about the promises of God. And he said that more than any other chapter of the Bible, Psalm 37 contains more promises from God than any other chapter of the Bible. And if you think about that, in the book of Isaiah, you're going to find 1,000 promises from God. But if you look at Psalm 37, you just start to read verse by verse, you're going to see so many promises that you can cling to as a follower of Jesus Christ. And so I just want to share a couple verses tonight from Psalm 37, verses 3 and 4. It says, "Trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and feed on his faithfulness. Delight yourself also in the Lord, and he shall give you the desires of your heart." Maybe some of you have heard that verse before, delight in the Lord, he'll give you the desires of your heart. And I feel like that's something that we've seen in 2019. We've seen a lot of cyclists and a lot of support staff come on our tours, and they have trusted in the Lord to ride 300 miles, to raise $1,000, to go on a short-term mission trip. We have seen so many different cyclists and support staff that have delighted themselves in the Lord, and God has given them the desires of their heart. It's incredible. Maybe the desire of their heart is to lead somebody to Christ. Maybe the desire of their heart is to be involved in missions or testify to their church or ride a century ride, 100 miles in one day. The Lord has done that for our cyclists. He's given them the desires of their heart, and we as the End Cycling crew, we get to see it. We get to experience it. We get to cry with them, pray with them. Verse 5 and 6 say, "Commit your way to the Lord. Trust also in him. He shall bring it to pass. He shall bring forth your righteousness as the light and your justice as the noonday." Verses 5 and 6 are calling us to commit and to trust. And maybe there's somebody that's watching this video live right now on Facebook. Maybe you're watching a replay. Maybe you've never committed your life to Jesus Christ. Why not tonight? Why not right now? I want to encourage you with this word that if you put your trust in the Lord, he will give you all of his righteousness. You get to trade your sin condition for the righteousness of Jesus Christ. That's what we're all about at Ends of the Earth Cycling, the gospel. It says then in verse 25 of Psalm 37, "I have been young, and now I am old. Yet I have not seen the righteous forsaken, nor have I seen his descendants begging for bread." I meet a lot of people who are interested in our ministry, and they talk about wanting to join our ministry. And I share with them, hey, you know what? We're missionaries, and we raise our own support. Or should I say God provides our support. He is Jehovah Jireh, and he provides for every person on this crew, myself included. We have the privilege and the honor of raising our own support. And God always provides. He always makes a way for us to do what he's called us to do. Verses 28 and 29 of Psalm 37, it says, "For the Lord loves justice and does not forsake his saints. They are preserved forever, but the descendants of the wicked shall be cut off." We have global youth workers all around the world that are working with young people, and we believe that God fights for those young people and that he loves justice. And there's so much injustice in the world. All you have to do is turn on the news and you find that out. But this is our prayer for Prosperous Youth Foundation, who we rode for back in March. For Albert Maglasang in the Philippines, who we rode for in June. For Love of a Father Ministries in Haiti, who we rode for in our wagon wheel bike ride. This is our prayer for Graceland Ministries, who we rode for in the Iowa bike ride. They're out of Poland. And finally, the Persecuted Youth Home in India. That's our prayer for them, who we rode for. This is our prayer for the State of the Union tonight, verses 30 and 31. "The mouth of the righteous speaks wisdom, and his tongue talks of justice. The law of his God is in his heart. None of his steps shall slide." It's my prayer that as you watch this broadcast and as you hear from each member of our team, that you would hear righteous wisdom from them and you would hear true testimonies of what God has done. And finally, the psalmist concludes with verses 39 and 40 of Psalm 37. It says, "But the salvation of the righteous is from the Lord. He is their strength in a time of trouble. And the Lord shall help them and deliver them. He shall deliver them from the wicked and save them because they trust in him." Thousands of years before Jesus Christ died on the cross, we found out through the psalm writer of Psalm 37 that God would make a way for salvation. And 2,000 years ago, he sent his one and only son to die on the cross for our sins. And that's the reason that we pray, pedal, repeat, so that global youth can hear the good news of the gospel. And we want you, even tonight, even watching this video, to hear that Jesus Christ died for you. God has a plan for your life. And if you will confess your sins, he is faithful and just to forgive you and cleanse you from all unrighteousness. That's what he has done. And we give him all the praise. So I want to talk to you a little bit about 2019. We're 10 months into the year. It has been another remarkable year for Ends of the Earth Cycling. Some of you know we did our very first ride in February of 2012. So we're going on 8 years of Key West bike rides and Midwest bike rides, and had the opportunity to go to some new states this year, and we've had a lot of friends join us. So far this year, in 2019, we've had 92 cycling participants. That's 92 people that signed up for a tour, raised money for a cause, got on a bicycle, and they chose to pray, pedal, and repeat. And they didn't do it alone, because these tours are fully supported. We had 57 support staff join our 6 tours this year. 1 tour international in Belize, 5 domestic tours. 57 people chose to pray, serve, repeat. And those participants, the cyclists and the support staff, collectively raised $102,680 to promote and resource Global Youth Ministry. Let's give a round of applause. Yeah. You know, in all of those tours, we try to estimate how many miles people rode. And we have an estimated 29,400 miles that were pedaled in 2019 for youth in Belize, youth in Thailand, youth in the Philippines, youth in Haiti, youth in Poland, youth in India. And this is all part of a bigger vision that we have to ride in all 50 states to raise $1 million for Global Youth Ministry. You might say, well, Justin, how are you doing with that total? I'll tell you in 1 second. But before I do, I just want to say to all of those people that sound like they're just a number to us, you're not just a number. To us, you're our hero. You are a hero because you chose to get on a bicycle to come and serve. And if you ever donated to support one of our riders, you are one of our heroes because you did this and God used you to make this ministry possible. Tonight, I want to say thank you to our 2019 partners, to our platinum sponsor, Grasso Insurance. Thank you so much, brother, for coming on another year of tours with us as our platinum sponsor. Thank you to Voltage Solutions, Colliant Solutions, to Primal. Shout out to Primal. These guys, they make all of our jerseys. They made our shirt. They made these cool gloves. They actually are starting to make gloves now. And so in 2020 tours from End Cycling, you can expect our own branded End Cycling gloves on our tours. And they're going to look just like the jersey. And that's going to be a lot of fun. Shout out to Superior Rollout, Redbird Alarms, Community 242, Johnson University of Florida. Thank you to the Nelson family for sponsoring on behalf of KidMin Science. Thank you to Crosswind Church of Union City, Tennessee. You guys are our partners. Open Road Press. Joy House Jasper was supported by a silent partner again this year. You know who you are. Thank you. Thank you to Broadway Christian Church. Thank you, Pastor Craig Yates in Lexington, Kentucky, for standing with us yet again. Thank you so much to Brooks and Palmer, Bob and Sandy Brooks, custom home builders in Delaware. Thank you, C3 Church in Naples, Mother Goose Chiropractic in Bonita Springs. Thank you to In Jesus' Name Foundation, and many more sponsors and partners that walked with us this year. Through the generous support of these donors, Ends of the Earth Cycling's general budget was provided for 2019. And right now, we are actively seeking businesses and local churches that want to walk with us in 2020. We're very excited for what God has done in the last 8 years. In the last 8 years, 619 cyclists have ridden with us. Those cyclists have pedaled over 182,000 collective miles. 20 different countries have been ridden for. 350 SAG volunteers have gone on tours. and over $664,000 was raised to promote and resource global youth ministry in our 33 tours. And even as I get so excited about those numbers, Nick Hayner reminded me just the other day that it's not really about numbers at all. It's about people. It's about lives that are transformed. It's about John 15 and abiding in Jesus. And so with that in mind, I just want to tell you about a couple people. I want to tell you about Bethany Tweedy, who came on our Iowa bike ride with her sister Hannah and her dad Michael and her mom Michelle and her grandma Alice. Now Bethany came and she rode every mile across the whole state of Iowa with a ride called RAGBRAI. But after that ride was over, after riding for the youth of Poland and raising money for the youth of Poland, Bethany heard something on that tour that made a radical impact in her life, and she signed up to go serve in Poland for 18 months with Graceland Ministries. She found out about that ministry through an Ends of the Earth cycling tour, and now she's going to go be with the very youth that she rode for and serve long-term in missions. How cool is that? I'd like to tell you about Jeff and Annette Wilterdink. Jeff and Annette, just a couple years ago, were on my heart. And so I reached out to them and I said, Jeff, Annette, would you guys be willing to do some editing for us? Just edit copy on our website, on our emails, just make us look good. Some of us don't speak so well, and they really helped us out in that way. They've been doing that for years. And that whole time, Annette has been telling me about a ministry in India that she's been working with. And she says, Justin, I can't really say the name of it because, you know, it's in a very sensitive area. It's in a place of India that there's a lot of persecution. In fact, there's 84 children, 84 young kids, young teens living in a home for persecuted youth. Their parents' lives are at stake, and so they're living in this home. And I said, Annette, thank you for being patient. You've been telling me about this for years. I have to go see it with my own eyes. And so myself and some of our crew went over there, and we met those kids, and we knew we had to ride for them. And not only did we ride for them, but Jeff and his wife Annette and our friend Jesse Kegg, Pastor Jesse, all came on the tour in Minnesota and Wisconsin, and they stood up night after night and faithfully testified and told us stories of how those kids had changed their lives. And so, what am I saying? In 2019, on our tours, we saw the beneficiaries from several of our ministries we were riding for actually come on the tour themselves, and that was so special. I would tell you about our friend Jay Hoss, who lives in Ankeny, Iowa. And I met this brother a short time ago on a 200-mile bike ride. And I saw somebody who was really excited about Jesus and really excited about cycling. And I don't know that he had ever taken those two passions and combined them into one. And that is what God did in his life through Ends of the Earth Cycling. Combined those two passions, and he has now joined our ambassador program. He's been a total blessing to us. He came on 2 tours with us in 2019 and was also out there representing Christ on RAGBRAI. I can't wait to see what God has in store for our dear brother. When I think about transformed lives, I think about Mark Montgomery, who 2 weeks before our Georgia bike ride contacted me via email, and he said, Justin, where do you need me in 2019? I said, Mark, I need you in Georgia. Can you be there in 2 weeks? The exact days of the Georgia bike ride, he had a flight booked to Thailand on a non-refundable ticket. He called the airline and they said, Mr. Montgomery, we hate to inform you, but that flight has actually just been canceled. Where do we refund your money? And he took those funds and he put it toward the Georgia bike ride, and he came and rode over 400 miles with us in 7 days in the bicycle ride across Georgia. God is using people like Bethany, like Jeff and Annette, like Jay Haas, like Mark Montgomery, and God is using the very people that are here in this room that are very near and dear to my heart. And so I want to introduce our first guest to the couch, to the great city of Gettysburg, Mr. Matt Miller. Come on down.
Hello, Facebook Live.
Nice to see you, bro.
Nice to see you.
Last time you were on the, we wore the same shirt tonight. How do we look?
Yeah,
Twinsies. Last time we were on the State of the Union, you had a title. You were the communications director, project manager. You've been living in that world for a year or two, building our website, just making us look good behind the scenes. And God has truly blessed you. And last week we made a special announcement about Matt. We actually promoted him to our associate director of Ends of the Earth Cycling. Very proud of you, bro. Very excited that you're stepping into that role and that you're taking on even more leadership. And you've done close to 20 tours with us. That's remarkable. Do you have a favorite tour out of the 20 plus that you've done?
Yeah. First off, I'm so excited and blessed to be to accept that director position, associate director position. So
Amen.
To God be glory for that. So yeah, my favorite tour of all that I've been on was South Dakota, hands down.
South Dakota. We've heard that from multiple participants. Yeah. It was beautiful. We rode for Guinea-Bissau. We went to Guinea-Bissau.
We went to Guinea-Bissau a year later. We saw what God was doing through people there who were going through the Minnesota Bible Training Center, and now they're out planting churches and doing great things for the kingdom. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Amen. Shout out to Wade McCarg, brother. Thank you for hooking that one up.
Yes.
So Key West Bike Ride, the last 2 years, you were the ride director.
Mm-hmm.
That is a whole different animal. It's a huge
Different
tour. A lot of people.
Yep.
A lot of people that want to escape the snow.
Come down to sunny Florida.
That's the best way to see the Florida Keys is on a bicycle. 15 miles an hour. Let's go. So Key West Bike Ride, you directed it again this year. It was for Thailand. And we raised upwards of $30,000 to promote and resource global youth ministry in Thailand. I mean, within weeks of that tour, funds were released. Funds were sent. It doesn't normally happen that quickly.
No, it doesn't.
But they said, we need this money. Why did they need it? What happened?
Yeah, so our partners in Thailand, the Prosperous Youth Foundation, they were getting ready to do a youth training event for a bunch of high schoolers. They were teaching them how to go out and evangelize and share their faith. And the beauty of all that is that, we're not there just evangelizing. We're teaching, I should say you guys are teaching through the bike ride, others how to share their faith. And they're doing holistic ministry where they're making ripples and ripples and ripples from generations to come. But they hosted this 4-day training, and they had about 100 kids come and be a part of this. By the way, you can read about this in one of our second most recent blog posts. The newest one just came out today if you want to check that out. Shout out to Crystal for managing our blog.
Amen.
Yeah. So they hosted this training for these high schoolers, and then at the end of the training, they actually went out to apply what they learned. And I'm going to read a little bit of excerpt from this blog post that Devin put together for us, and you can read the rest of it, like I mentioned. So Thailand's populations are about 1% Christian, and it is one of the top 10 most unreached countries in the world. So at the end of this 4-day training, these students, these high schoolers went out and they built relationships with 790 people. They shared their faith with 360 of them. 56 made a decision to follow Christ, and another 8 were undecided. Wow. Like these aren't just numbers. Like these are real people, and man, you guys did that. I didn't do this. The Incycling crew didn't do this. You guys did this. You prayed, you rode, you served, you gave financially. You guys are changing the world. And the beauty of all this is that there is so much impact that is happening for the kingdom now because of what you guys do, that you will never know the full extent of what God is doing through you, through your cycling, through your praying, through your donating, through your serving on a tour this side of heaven. You're gonna get to the end of the days, and you're gonna be able to find out all that really happens on the other side of glory. So that's the cool thing, is that we hear stories of impact, we read stuff like that, we hear stories that Justin just shared, but man, I believe that's just a sliver of what's really going on, especially when generations are being impacted because of these tours and what you're doing. So
what I love about it is what you just described is youth helping youth. It's not adults going out and reaching youth.
Yep.
Young people were equipped to reach their peers.
Yeah, so it's kind of the analogy of we're not giving somebody a fish, we're teaching them how to fish.
Yeah.
So, and that's super cool. So I want you guys to be praying for another youth event happening in just 8 days, and just a little over a week. Students from about 35 of the 70 youth homes that their Prosperous Youth Foundation are connected with will be hosting their biggest event of the year, and they've had to cap it out at 350 students, and this is going on in just 1 week. Pray that the camp goes well. Pray for the camp counselors. It is exhausting to have a week of camp to pour into youth lives for to be on for that long. But just pray for the youth, pray for their hearts, pray for their families, the environments that they will go home to, and that God will be glorified through all that. So
yeah, that camp happens every year, and the last 3 or 4 years, it's been largely funded through Ends of the Earth Cycling's efforts with rides that we've done for that ministry. Yeah. So to God be the glory. Thanks, Matt, for coming up.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out also before I go to our honorary crew. We have a bunch of people who lean into us. They're not a part of the InCycling crew officially, but man, they come on so many tours with us a year. They lean into us. They're so intentional about building us up and loving on us and doing other things that just help us out in so many ways. So shout out to our honorary crew. Shout out to our advisory team. Man, when we have hard questions or hard decisions that need to be made, we were able to reach out to these wise men and women and ask for counsel, and they give it to us, and we take that into consideration. So thank you guys for that. And our ambassador team. Our ambassadors headed up by Mr. Derek Reed himself. And thank you guys for just proclaiming Christ in your regions of the United States and beyond. So thank you all for what you do. So God bless you guys.
Amen. Amen. Awesome. Thank you, Matt. All right, next we're going to hear from Paul Molker. He's officially known as our PSAG, Prayer Support and Gear, and also our Director of Local Outreach. And he does a lot more behind the scenes as well, manages our web store. You got one of those cool shirts too.
Yeah,
I
don't know. Some guy there thought might need it.
Whoa, I like it. So we just want to talk to Paul here a little bit about what he does on tours, because I think a lot of times for you, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. There's a time crunch. There's an effort to get to the churches ahead of time, provide a grade A experience for our cyclists. And sometimes you don't get to be around the action. That's got to be hard. But how do you engage with the cause that we're riding for?
Well, the answer to that is not all that easy, but a lot of it is because we have such a good team. And by that, I don't mean just our staff. I mean the expanded team of support people that come alongside of us.
Yeah.
So when I go from church to church, I get to talk with the pastors or the church people at the next stop. And I get to tell them about the people that are out there, who's doing support and all of that. And so I get to have special conversations that they might not get to have, because when everybody gets there, as you know, things get very busy and there isn't time to be personalized with everyone, for the church people. And so for me, I get to share that with them and tell them how excited that these people are to have us there. And then I get to do the worship, and sometimes I'm even part of that. And so with all of that put together, it makes the whole journey for me exciting, because it's not just me. It's a huge part where everybody is involved.
What I've always appreciated about you is that you're not ashamed of the gospel. So you meet people at gas stations, you meet people on the side of the road, and you're always telling them what's going on.
I do, yeah. And I've had experiences where I've sat in a rest stop just waiting, and people will come by and they'll see that van and they'll see the writing on it and they'll say, "What's this all about?"
Yeah.
And I tell them, we're a Christian bicycle ministry, and I've got 18 people out there. They're headed down the road this way. Well, what do you mean? And I said, well, they're praying about a specific prayer theme for a country, for a youth project somewhere in the world. And they said, and they're riding a bike. Oh, yeah. Why not?
It doesn't always make sense to people.
Yeah, it doesn't.
But you get to explain it.
But I get to explain it, and it's fun.
Yeah.
Because they look at you and they're astounded.
And here's the thing, like for you, you've ridden a bike, you've been support staff more times than I can count. And this June, you were the ride director for our first time ever going into the state of Georgia. We partnered up alongside of Bicycle Ride Across Georgia, or BRAG, for their 40th annual. Tell us a little bit about how you got to serve on BRAG. What did you see God do? What was it like coming alongside of a bike ride that had 1,000 other cyclists in it?
Okay, BRAG was a fun thing to do. It was very hard, difficult, I won't deny that. But what was fun about it is they wanted us to be there. They said, come, please come. We had visited them the year before for a couple of days just to meet them and float this idea. And they were like, yes. So for me, as the ride director, I didn't have to do our normal thing of setting up churches because Bragg set up a room at their stop each night. And for us, that's something we were really looking forward to, being actually where the people were staying every night. And so they did a good job of finding us rooms.
Thank you, guys.
But the first night out was a fun night because on that night they didn't stay somewhere where we could actually put on a service. So what we did is we put an outdoor service on. We had, the converter in the van, and so we just backed it up the trail and ran the extension cords out, and we set up. So we're right in the middle of the camping area. So it's like having a captive audience, I mean, they're right there. They can't get away. But I tell you, it was one of the most phenomenal times of worship that I saw yet, because these people, they had no idea we were even there. And then here we are singing praise and worship and just really having a great time. And they just kept coming by. And there was a lot of people there that night.
Yeah,
and it was all outdoors.
And then throughout the week, people were coming up to us and saying, "Hey, we enjoyed the service the other night."
Yes.
And you and I were like, "We didn't see you there." And they were like, "Yeah, but we were right there.
They were there.
We were watching."
And that was the beauty. We couldn't see everyone because they were in their campsites because they were right there.
Yeah.
But it brought people to us that kept coming. I mean, night after night, these same people would come.
Yeah.
And I also had this experience as a ride director of having our first ever End Cycling intern with us, Leah Harden. And I'll tell you, she was such a joy to have as a partner working alongside of me. But her conversations with everyone, unbelievable young lady, mature beyond her age. I'm telling you straight out, boy, she just really rocked the house talking to these people and sharing the gospel with them. And I have to believe that there are many in that group that had not heard the gospel before she got to them. And that was exciting for me because Leah and I, each day, we would load up the Ends trailer like we always do, and we would just barrel to the next stop as quickly as we could get there without, I didn't speed. But Leah might tell you I may or may not have kind of floated through a stop sign or two. But anyway, we would get to the next stop and drop the trailer off and put on our bike rack and hustle back out onto the bike path. And then we would do SAG support. And so we were very busy all of the time. And one occasion, and this is where Leah really shined, a gentleman had a wreck and he separated his shoulder. And so we just happened to be the SAG that happened to be there. So we picked him up and we said, well, let us call the 911 and get an ambulance out here. He said, no, just take me into town. I'll be fine. So we put him into the van, and of course Leah started talking with him, and come to find out 3 years prior, he had broke the same shoulder on the same ride in the same area. And we ended up taking him to the same hospital, and he ended up having the same nurse take care of him in the ER.
Goodness.
But the whole thing of it is Leah stayed with him and shared the gospel with him that entire time until his family could get to him. And that was so special because, here she is, a 19-year-old girl.
Yeah.
And, first time out. And, I mean, it's just amazing what God did through her. And, we don't know where he is today, but I have to believe that her influence was great.
Yeah.
But then also in the worship services, we had two gentlemen that came by a lot. They actually came out and sought you guys out in the morning to ride with you during the day. And these two guys have signed up for our Key West ride next year in 2020. So shout out to John Brookie,
Chris Ray.
and Chris Ray. We're looking forward to seeing you guys.
Love you guys.
No doubt about it. But there was also, like I said, as the ride director, I also emceed that. I talked through the prayer themes. I mean, I did a lot more than I ever normally would do because it was fun. And I saw God working in these people's lives. I mean, these people, they just kept coming. And then there was an icing on this cake.
It wouldn't have been possible without Franklin.
Exactly. Franklin, he is the guy that's in charge of Bragg. He organizes everything. He drives the Bragg bus. I mean, he's the guy that we sought out a year ago in order to set all this up. And just a few weeks ago, you and I got an email from him, and it had a link on it, and it said, going to go live in just a few minutes, and I'm going to be baptized.
Amen. Congratulations, bro.
Congratulations, Franklin.
Yeah.
That was music to our ears.
Amen.
We had no idea, and I hope that we were a part of influence for you, because you did a tremendous job on Bragg. It was a tremendous ride.
It was, and you did a tremendous job as well. Thank you for your faithful service, bro. And we're going to hear next from Josh Walker. Shout out to Paul. Give a round of applause for Paul. And we have our lead designer, Josh Walker. He's on Instagram at _a_photo_ninja.
This is the first time that has been announced.
I gotta get people following you on there, bro.
I gotta post some more pictures on there.
His pictures are so good, and you should follow this guy. But we have some incredible news for the broadcast that some people might get sad about, but I'm excited about, and I think you will be too. So tell them about this upcoming transition in your life.
So most of you are probably aware that In Cycling has a parent organization called New International. And there's a question that we've asked for years at New International, which is, what is God calling you to do? And last summer, I felt that God was calling me to pursue a journalism internship with New International. 2-month internship, Southeast Asia, doing photography, working with videographers, working with writers. It was right up my alley. I was really excited about it. And I applied to the internship. I talked to our mobilization team, and they said, "You're great. We're aware of your work. We'd love to have you." But so far, no one else has actually applied. We've had a lot of interest, but no one has actually signed up. So I said, well, okay, let me know where this goes. And I started praying about it, praying for a team, asking God to bring people to this internship. And I didn't hear anything. And it keeps getting closer. And I'm like, okay, what's going to happen with this? And finally, mobilization said, we just haven't had anyone sign up. It's not going to work out. We're going to have to cancel the internship. And there were some things that, some sacrifices that I was going to have to make to do this internship. It was during the time of the wagon wheel ride, which I've been really excited about. So I had sort of mixed feelings, like, I wanted to do this, but that opens up these other opportunities. So I was okay with it, but I had this question in the back of my mind, like, what was the purpose of that? Because I really felt like God had called me to pursue this opportunity, and that didn't happen. So it's like, why did that? Why was that? Why didn't He provide a team? And I kept praying about it, kept struggling with it. And then this September, our orientation group at New International saw 3 people join the organization, and 1 person raised their full support to come to the organization to join the media department, specifically to do journalism. And I realized that was the team that God provided.
Wow.
I had a dream of a 2-month internship, and God said, let me do you one better and give you a full-time team. So I'm continuing to say yes to what God is calling me to do. and starting January 1st, I'm transitioning into New International's media department to do design for the organization, and also to start pursuing journalism projects with our missionaries and ministries around the world. I still will be heavily involved in what Encycling is doing. I love the ministry here. I love the team here. And I definitely fully intending to stay connected. I'm still going to be coming on tours, taking pictures.
Awesome.
I'm still going to be working on all, or at least probably 90% of the design projects for the foreseeable future. So it's not so much me like leaving Encycling in the dust as expanding my capacity in my ministry to be able to serve the wider world of missions.
Yeah, I think of it as a promotion, honestly. I mean, you've been faithful to our crew for several years. You've done almost every project we've had, and you still find time to go on tours. This year you did 3 of our tours: Key West, Wagon Wheel, Minnesota, Wisconsin. And I saw a lot of joy in you in the Wagon Wheel ride. There was something special about that tour in June in Union City, Tennessee. What was it for you that meant so much on that tour?
So Wagon Wheel was awesome. It was an awesome format. I was excited about it to begin with, just because of where it was going to be and who I knew was going to be involved. Matt Crossan, our ride director, did an amazing job with that tour. But the thing that probably made it even to the next level in terms of how special it was to me was that we actually had the beneficiaries that we were riding for on tour with us.
Yeah.
Nathan and Katie Clark doing amazing ministry in Haiti with single mothers, with young kids, with Love of a Father Ministries. And we talk a lot about numbers and statistics and, how many states we've ridden in and how much money we've raised and how many tours we've done. And it's, we've talked about that even at this offsite, how easy it is to kind of get caught up in those things. Mm-hmm. But actually having our beneficiaries on tour with us and being able to talk to them in person and being able to see their passion for the ministry that they're doing was as much or more of an encouragement to us as we had intended to be to them. And one of the goals, I think, of Encycling has always been to kind of connect the local church to the global church and the work that's happening in the world. And that was a really special way to see that happen in a very tangible way. We're actually able to see them face to face and talk to them and hear their passion personally for the ministry that they're doing and for the people of Haiti.
And Crosswind Church just embraced them.
Absolutely.
They embraced us. I mean, they were the church to us. They weren't, here's a building and here's the key and you guys have fun.
Yeah, they were amazing. They really engaged.
The meals were incredible. Mm-hmm. Sunday morning, I had the opportunity to minister in the service. Pastor Jeremy gave me the pulpit, and there was this young man in the service named Andrew, 11 years old, and he leans over to his dad in the middle of the service, and he says, "Dad, take me to buy a bike right after this service, because I'm riding with these guys." So they leave the early service, they go buy a bike, they bring it to the church with the tires like still flat, it's half assembled, the tags are still on it, and our crew puts the bike together, and this 11-year-old boy rides 18 miles with us that day to a coffee shop. What an encouragement.
We even had other people who joined us on that day that didn't make it to the coffee shop.
Yeah.
They turned around partway through. And this 11-year-old kid is like, "No, I'm going the whole
He gets to the coffee shop and he's got this giant piece of fried chicken. He just starts tearing it. I'm so hungry. That's the future of Ends of the Earth cycling.
Absolutely.
But man, it's been a blessing to work directly with you. Your wisdom and your writing skills and your photography and your journalism we bless you. We know you're going to go far, and we thank God for the media department and all that they do at New International, and we are so excited for you to step into that role. So, proud of you, buddy. All right, give it up for Josh. Speaking of the wagon wheel bike ride, Crystal Hayner, come on down. You're the next contestant on State of the Union.
I'm gonna come to the front and
We're doing this?
turn this way
Is this a
because
thing?
I'm super short. You're gonna lose me in this couch.
So this is our Global Youth Ministry liaison. Before, during, and after the tours, Crystal is the one reaching out to our beneficiaries, telling their story well, curating our blog, keeping us fed, planning offsites. You do so much behind the scenes, and you, speaking of the Wagon Wheel Bike Ride, also fell in love with Nathan and Katie and their ministry, Loaf.
Yeah.
But you often ask our beneficiaries, like, how can we pray for you on these tours?
Yeah.
Tell us about that. Like, how does God answer the prayers of his people?
So if you've never been on an InCycling tour before, every day we have a prayer theme. It's a specific prayer thought that we are praying into as an entire group, specifically for the beneficiary we're riding for. They're not generic prayer themes. They're specific to the country, to the ministry, to the context that we're riding for. And so we've seen God do some pretty incredible things through our prayers. During the particular ride, during the Wagon Wheel Tour, it wasn't actually a prayer theme of ours for this specific thing, but it's kind of a big dream that Nathan and Katie shared with us with Love of a Father Ministries. And they said, what we really, really want is an ultrasound machine. And we want to be able to share the joy of seeing your baby growing inside of your belly. We want these girls to be able to see what God is creating within them. And so we want an ultrasound machine. And so we began to pray for an ultrasound machine. We started figuring, how can we come up with the money outside of a tour to get them this ultrasound machine? And as it would happen in a God sort of way, the exact month that we were praying that God would provide us an ultrasound machine for Love of a Father Ministries in Haiti, there was another ministry, a pro-life ministry in upstate New York, that was praying that God would provide them with a brand new ultrasound machine that would meet the needs of the girls that they were ministering to, that would be like really, really crisp at even like 4 weeks of pregnancy, before any girl in Haiti would ever know that she was pregnant. And so they needed something that was like super powered ultrasound machine. And so they were praying for that literally at the exact same time that we were praying for an ultrasound machine. Well, in June, later on, at the end of June, that ministry was given a random check for that brand new ultrasound machine. And so they had a perfectly good ultrasound machine that had nowhere to go. And Nick and I took our children to the state fair. And the pro-life ministry was at that state fair. And while we were there, we always go and we visit them. It's the last thing we do before we leave the fair. And we started talking, and I said, hey, just out of curiosity, do you happen to know anyone with a spare ultrasound machine? And she was like, what? Wait a second. And she took out her phone and started texting furiously. And I was like, what is happening? Nick and I were looking at each other, and she's like, wait. And she just was like staring at her phone like this. And she's like, I just need you to read this. And she turned her phone over. And she had asked her boss if they would be willing to donate that ultrasound machine to us. And he said yes. Wow. And so without having to pay a single cent from the money that we raised, our prayers raised an ultrasound machine for Love of a Father Ministries.
Oh, yeah.
Good job, guys.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you've been working with our Global Youth Workers for a couple years. You went to the Philippines in April. Mm-hmm. You saw the work of the ministry over there, one that we had ridden for and one that we're going to ride for. And then this coming year, you and Nick are going to direct the first ever Idaho tour.
Yeah.
What do you think? Are you excited about the Idaho tour?
I'm so excited. I've never been to Idaho. Up until about a year ago, I didn't know that anything else existed but potatoes there. Anyone else?
Now we know.
Idaho has potatoes. Pass.
Yep.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I like potatoes. But it turns out that Boise has been keeping a secret from us this whole time, and it's gorgeous. And it has mountain ranges, and beautiful landscape, and hot springs. So Nick and I are headed out there in about 10 days to check it out and prepare. So stay tuned. Instagram and Facebook, we'll be sending tons of pictures and videos.
20.
Yeah.
It's for the youth of the Philippines. Join Crystal, join Nick for an incredible 5-day, 300-mile tour.
Yeah.
So y'all give it up for Crystal.
Thanks.
Thank you. So this next person I want to introduce to you, we call him the International Man of Mystery. And we first met him in 2013 on the Key West bike ride. He kind of pops in and pops out from time to time, and you never know where he's going to come from. My man Brian Bergen, a finance coordinator. Y'all know who it is. Cookie Man on the bike.
Cookie Monster.
Cookie Monster. Fresh off of the Baltimore Triathlon. How did that go?
I had a good race. I enjoyed it. It was fun racing in a different state, not knowing anybody.
Yeah,
met a bunch of new friends and got to talk about our ministry a little bit too.
and I love that you were passionate about triathlons when you joined us, and you haven't had to surrender that. You've just continued to do them in certain seasons, but ultimately God's used you on the bike a lot. It's been great.
It has been nice to be able to blend the two, and glad that I can still do triathlons and pull those in every once in a while, and take people on swimming adventures on our rides.
That's right. If you're in Brian's group and there's a lake nearby,
You're going swimming.
So you were super instrumental in Ends of the Earth Cycling in 2018 and 2019 and helping us to get to Belize. You used to live in Belize. You really cared a lot about the youth there and the ministries. And so we had the opportunity to host our first ever Belize tour in February of this year. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that short-term project, what happened there, what was impactful to you?
So we got to ride for Freedom House, which is a ministry that works with young men, and they put them through a 12-month discipleship program. And all these men have been in prison as they've come out of prison. And so they go through a 12-month discipleship program and also learning work skills. So as they want to reassimilate back into the community and be productive. And it was just really cool to see that and work with them. And what made it so important or impactful to me was going in 2018 and then going back in 2019, watching some of the men as they've transitioned and gone through that program. And it actually made Matthew 18:12 come alive to me, where Jesus is saying, who wouldn't leave the 99 to go find the one that's lost. And so working behind the scenes of everything and working with the finances and doing a lot of that, then it became really apparent to me is like, that's one of the reasons that we're riding, is we're resourcing and equipping and praying for ministries around the world. And they are coming alongside where God's already working and working with his mission of finding the one and finding that one lost person.
Yeah. And that tour was so special because 3 of the brothers from Freedom House came on the tour with us. Can you tell us a little bit about how they engaged with the tour?
So, yeah, those guys came over involved in the tour and participated in SAG, and they were asking questions about us, like, why are we coming and riding for them?
Yeah.
And trying to understand that, why we'd come from a different country and even care about them at all. Mm-hmm. And then one of the guys that we met before in 2018, Winston, had graduated. And you can read about his story that I wrote in one of the blogs, Freedom to Refrigeration, if you go on look at one of the blogs. But his impact of having him going forward with Work for Life and getting certified in job skills was really impactful, and seeing how these guys are embracing it and following Jesus and getting that second chance.
We had 20 people go on that tour, cyclists and support staff, and our goal. So we did things a little different with the finances. We challenged each of those people to donate $250 toward Freedom House, and we were so excited to present a check for $5,000. That was going to be like our big moment. Freedom House, we bless you with $5,000. The day before the trip, Pastor Chad Wolf at Christ Community Church called myself and my wife and John and Janelle Whistler, a couple of our other cyclists, down to the front, and the elders prayed over us for that trip. And afterward, in the lobby, a gentleman I had never met before came up to me and he says, "How do I donate toward that Belize trip?" And I said, "Well, sir, to be honest with you, all due respect, it's already taken care of. We've already raised the money." And he goes, No. How do I donate toward Freedom House? And I was thinking, man, what's going to happen here? And he didn't know how much we raised, but he handed us a check for $5,000. And we were able to present $10,000 to Freedom House. What was that like for you, that moment, seeing all that transpire?
That was really exciting to be able to do, because having lived in Belize and the resources that are there and limited, being able to bless that ministry in that way, and watching the Pastor Eddie and Pastor Manuel, right?
Yeah.
Those guys react to what they were going to be able to resource, the things that they couldn't do beforehand, and now they're going to be able to.
Amen. Shout out to Dan Creel. Shout out to Sean Wilkerson. Ashley Ott, you three made that project so special. And also our friends Kip and Beth Hamilton are in the room tonight.
Yeah.
Round of applause for Kip and Beth.
We miss the jungle nurses.
The jungle nurses are awesome. So you guys be on the lookout for Brian in 2020. He's excited about some of our upcoming tours that he's going to be on. And thank you for helping our people to raise money for Global Youth Ministry. You're awesome.
Thanks.
Awesome. All right. Next, I'm excited to introduce my friend, my brother, Mr. Derek Reed, all the way from Lincoln, Illinois.
True.
Yeah. Yes. Good to have you on the broadcast.
Thank you. Yeah.
And
It's good to be here.
good to see you all the way here in Fairfield, PA.
Yeah.
How you liking it so far?
It's nice. I mean, it's starting to be fall, right? So we got the windows cracked, and I love fall. It's my favorite time of the year.
You know what I love
Pumpkin spice
is you
Oh.
and your podcast that you and Nick have been doing.
Yeah, it's mostly nice.
It's a lot of work.
It is.
Cycling for More
Cycling for More.
is the podcast.
It is the podcast.
And you guys have been crushing it.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to just interview people and talk with them, like hear their stories.
Mm-hmm.
And listening to podcasts myself, I get to like hear what the interviewers are saying to them, and it really like brings out the people that they're interviewing. It brings out their stories. It brings out their like them as the hero, and I love that. Like I love being able to do that, and being able to talk with so many different people that we never thought we would ever talk through.
Yeah, 15
talk about.
episodes
Yeah.
so far.
15. Yep.
And you got a couple more in the queue.
We do.
Awesome.
Yep. And we have a lot of different, I think, just fodder from all the different rides from this year, and all the different rides from previous years, and even youth that have been impacted, and all of that. So,
It's an incredible podcast. Cycling for More is at ncycling.com/podcast. And if you know Derek, you know that he absolutely has been instrumental in helping Ends of the Earth Cycling get to RAGBRAI. Register's annual Great Bike Ride across Iowa.
Yep.
And for the last 2 years, you've not only been the ride director, but you've also gone on the pre-ride, which is a pretty special thing.
It is.
Not everybody gets to go.
Not everybody gets to go. No.
And you've been...
That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
That's cool.
But this year, on that pre-ride, there was about 40 cyclists.
Yeah, thereabouts.
And they did something really special with the Primal
They
kits.
did. Yeah.
They put an emblem, something on the kit, on the jersey, that represented each person on the pre-ride. And when I heard what they put for you, I was in tears.
Yeah. So TJ had talked to me a little bit about it at the Bike Tourism Conference down in San Antonio last year. And he was like, okay, so you're coming back for the ride, right? And I was like, yeah, I don't have a
guess
choice.
so.
You're talking to me about it. So absolutely. And so I was like, yeah, absolutely. And So he was like, I think you're really going to like the jerseys that we have this year for that. And I was like, okay, great. So January rolls around, and I, am going out to the mailbox, checking literally every day. And I open it up, and I'm like, okay, like what's going on? And the first thing that I see is praying hands, just like that.
Right on
exactly.
the right on the chest.
Yeah, right here.
Right here.
Yep. And like underneath, there's like this little. I should have worn it.
It's like a
You
it's
it's
like a Boy
bow.
Scout
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then right underneath it is the praying hands. And it was like one of the first things that you see on the jersey, and it just felt so special. It felt like I'm a part of this family. I'm a part of and we get to be a part of the bigger family. I think of RAGBRAI in general, being able to do that.
Yeah.
And the fact that they put that on their jersey is, I think, a total God thing. I really do.
So it was the last week of July that the 47th annual RAGBRAI happened.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw some incredible growth from 2018 to 2019.
Yeah.
You and Michael Tweedy stepped up and kind of co-directed that.
Yeah.
And I just appreciate how much you invested your time in RAGBRAI. Shout out to Ashley and the boys for, being so supportive of you.
For sure.
And so tell us a little bit about RAGBRAI this past year. What was special about it? What was different? What did you love?
Yeah. I love that my wife got to go on RAGBRAI with me.
Yeah.
And that she did 250 miles without training.
Gosh.
Like, man, it was so incredible to be able to watch that and be able to strengthen our marriage, for sure. But, man, there were so many things that I loved about this tour this year. I loved the camaraderie of our team. I loved the community. I loved the laid-backness of it. I think that, we were really just kind of going and not really worrying about what time we were going to be there. We knew we needed to be there by like worship time and Bible study and stuff. But it was great. It was just a leisurely kind of tour. And, honestly, so this year we went from 33 this year, and we had 21 last year.
Wow.
And so we had 16 riders and 5 support staff in 2018. And then we had 23 cyclists and 10 support staff in 2019. And honestly, that's a big part of the testimony to RAGBRAI. I was riding alongside of Katie Murphy. Shout out to her. And I was asking, who do you have next on the podcast? Because RAGBRAI is one of these things where like groups of people just get together and like they experience this ride together, right? So I had heard a previous podcast about a team that was coming, kind of similar to like what Freedom House does, but they were riding as a group with men who had been incarcerated, and so it just like kind of caught my attention, and I was like, Katie, thank you so much for doing that interview, and she was like, well, why don't you come on tonight and do this? And I was like, sure.
What was the podcast called?
It's called Just Go Bike.
Okay.
Just Go Bike podcast.
Just for clarification, it wasn't our podcast.
No, it was not our
theirs.
podcast. Yep.
And they interview you about cycling?
About cycling and what we do. And because of that, we got to meet Ian Goff, and we got to meet Bob Koch. And there was like five or six other people that heard about that and signed up for it. Didn't end up coming on the team, but some came to the worship services, some came to like all of that kind of stuff. So if that wouldn't have happened, and if our ride flyer Josh hadn't been in the handbook that year, I don't think that we would have had that many people again. So so I just love it's one of those things where we come alongside of these rides like RAGBRAI, and we want to try to add value to what's already happening. And so many different rides already have believers, and we just get to meet up with those believers and share truth and Christ and worship and Bible study together. So.
And there's such a camaraderie on RAGBRAI, 15,000, 20,000 people all going in the same direction across the great state of Iowa. And shout out to TJ, to Mark, to Scott. Yeah. Those guys are so special to us, and they've become friends. And as part of that friendship, they put on a bike tour network conference every November.
They do.
And this year it's in San Antonio again.
Mhm.
So you'll be there, and
Yep.
you'll probably go to the Esquire.
I will.
And send
Absolutely.
me a selfie. Okay.
Mhm. Yep.
Just want to clarify that.
Yeah,
if
I
you're
wish,
ever in
I wish
San
Franklin
Antonio,
was coming.
Franklin, we're going to miss you there.
Here we are.
But you are invited, you and Nick, to host a session
Yeah.
at the BTNC that's going to be unlike anything we've ever done. Do you want to share about it?
Yeah, that'd be great. So we're doing what is called a rolling breakout. So we're going on a ride, about 24 miles in San Antonio with whoever shows up. Shameless plug in that one. But the whole thing is, like I said, with RAGBRAI, with Bragg, with Bike Tourism Conference, we really like to come alongside of people that are already doing stuff. And so our class is called Better Together. And we're going to be like talking through how do we as tourism or as bicycle tour companies, how do we make our rides better? We know that there's a story there. We know that somebody was impacted by their ride. And so we just want to hear those stories. And so we're going to take a bike ride together, and everybody's going to share their stories as they're riding. And then we're going to kind of call people out, like 2 people in the ride, and interview them on the podcast.
What a cool opportunity.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
We will be in prayer for that. And we just want to say thank you to Derek for the work of mobilization and networking, and just for your heartbeat to reach young people for Christ. And just super grateful for all that you've done, brother.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You. Y'all give it up for Derek. We are so grateful that you've spent the last hour with us. We have 2 more guests that are going to come up and share. And I want to encourage you to stay on the broadcast with us as we hear from our pastoral domestique, Mr. Nick Hayner. Come on down. Welcome. Good to see you.
Good.
How are you?
I'm good.
You rode today.
I did ride today. I don't think I have a concussion at the moment, which for this year is saying a lot, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to make that joke. It's my head. It's okay.
Hey, shout out to Bontrager for the new helmet.
That's right. You better believe it.
So, man, your co-host was just up here. What is it like doing the podcast with Derek?
You know what? It's so much fun. Like, it's a fun way, I think, for Derek and I to be connected, and just getting a chance to talk and kind of share life. Like, we always talk before and after we record. We should probably record that and put that on air too, although I don't know about that. But it gives us a great chance to connect, so it's really cool because we're able to walk together. And then just to be able to talk about the show and kind of what we want to do with it, what we think maybe some good directions to go with things, and just say, like, what could we try? What could be different? What would be good? And Derek has been listening to podcasts a lot longer than I have, so it's nice for me to be able to get that input from him, just from that experience, just kind of being in that, a little bit more immersed in that world. So it's cool to be able to just play off of each other and just to joke around and have a good time and talk bikes and talk Jesus and just see what comes out of it each time.
And one of my favorite new things that you guys did this year that I didn't even see coming was you recorded these mini podcasts where you interviewed beneficiaries that we were riding for prior to the tour. So like 5 15-minute episodes where people from the ministry in Thailand, people from the ministry in the Philippines got a chance to tell their story. And I think that really helped propel more funds forward for Global Youth Ministry. Thank you for that.
Yeah, those episodes were a lot of fun to do because it was a chance to sit down and talk with our beneficiaries and hear from them and get a little bit more direct stories from them before those rides came about. And it was just kind of one of those things that it was an idea that I felt like came to us, and we were like, hey, let's just do these quick episodes and see what happens, just as a way to help promote the rides, help people have a better understanding of who they were going to be riding for, and maybe even what the ride might be like before they sign up for it. And so I thought it went really well. Our hope is to do them again this year for the rides that we've got coming up this year, and Lord willing, that'll happen. And I think it'll be a blessing to hopefully to our beneficiaries and then to everybody that's planning on coming on those rides too.
Absolutely. I mean, it's been an awesome year, and you've been around for a lot of it. You've seen a lot of God's faithfulness to you in particular, to our cyclists. And you and I were talking recently about the word perseverance, and just that you had seen God's faithfulness in some perseverance that had to happen in your own life personally, in the lives of some of our riders, especially on our Minnesota and Wisconsin tour. That was a very hard, very challenging tour, a lot of spiritual warfare. Tell us a little bit about your heartbeat behind what you saw.
Yeah, so I realized as I've kind of been sitting here through this evening and thinking about stuff, like, it's kind of, I don't know that funny is the right word, but it's an interesting bookend to the season. And I know we mentioned that Beth was here earlier, but Beth, I'm actually super excited that you're here. A lot of people know the story from Belize where I crashed and broke my collarbone because there is a blog post about that. We were apparently pumping the blog hardcore tonight. So there's also a blog post about that. But I mean, so some people know that, and other people might not know that that Beth, the day that I actually got there, because I got there late, also crashed and really suffered a really bad break in her leg. And praise the Lord is back riding on a tandem bicycle with her husband Kip, and just awesome. So super awesome. So my year began with that, and I broke a helmet and dealt with concussion symptoms and everything. Fast forward, I'm gonna borrow a Jay Haas phrase because I love Jay Haas. But fast forward all the way to August in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and well, as circumstances would go, personally, I crashed again and broke another helmet, and have, dealt with, thankfully not the same amount of concussion symptoms in that. But I look at that Minnesota ride, and it wasn't just that. Like, that wasn't the only thing. We had a rider who was sick before the ride even started, was never able to pedal at all with us, and praise the Lord, he's back on the bike as well and just rode a century. So we had another rider who was never able to pedal because of a back injury that happened before she was ever able to get on a bike. We had another rider that had to take a couple of days off dealing with health issues. We had a van that just broke down and just was out of commission for a couple of days. That was a SAG vehicle.
One thing after another.
All of these things.
Gosh.
And it's so easy to look at those, and I sometimes get frustrated by them and all those things. And I've said a lot that, one, it has reminded me that these rides, they're mission trips. They are moments where we are inserting ourselves into spiritual warfare, where we are standing in the gap for these youth that we're riding for. And so we should expect to come up against it at points. But what really stands out, and what's bigger maybe than all of that, I think, is that the Lord is faithful through all of those circumstances to continue to accomplish things through the rides and to continue to accomplish things in people's lives even as they deal with that. Like, even though I had to get off of the bike at that point in Minnesota, like, I was still able to help with being SAG at points. I was still able to have great conversations. Wendy, who was not able to be on the bike, she stuck around, and she and I were able to have just a great conversation one afternoon over lunch. And so there were all of these things that I still saw God continue to show up in the midst of the craziness of the circumstances, because he is faithful. And I often come back to Romans 8:28, that God, works all things to the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. And even in those really crummy, difficult circumstances, the Lord is faithful to show up and to redeem and restore those moments. And I believe, Beth, you are a part of that, and God's faithfulness in restoring you physically and mentally and emotionally. And I've seen it in my own life and everything else. But right along with that is the perseverance of God's saints. Like, because God is faithful, I believe we are able to persevere because we can trust in his goodness and who he is and what he's doing. Even when the circumstances get really crummy, the Lord's people can press on and can persevere. And I've seen that this year. I've seen people get back on bikes. I've seen people be committed to causes. I've seen beneficiaries that they keep going. They persevere in spite of the challenges that they face. And so it's just kind of this beautiful picture all wrapped up into these small things that we get to do, and in these different ways that we get to see God show up. And it was, to me, really evident on Minnesota, and it was actually in a lot of ways really evident on Belize. And so just that bookend is, to me, that reminder of how faithful God is and how we as his people are able to persevere because of who he is and being able to trust in that.
Yeah, and I think in both of those instances that you mentioned, correct me if I'm wrong, but you still preached each night. On the day that you crashed, you still got up and preached that night.
Yes, I did. Yep, both in Belize with a broken collarbone and my arm in a sling. I spoke that night. And then the same thing in Minnesota.
Incredible.
I spoke that same night as well. I think I also said that I might not speak on any more instances after that. But you know what? I can't because that would be giving up, and that's not what it's about.
The perseverance that you've shown, that God has shown, faithfulness, and you've reached out to a lot of people after the tours. I appreciate how after the tour is over, our cyclists, our support staff, they have this mountaintop experience. And sometimes they have to go back to the real world. And I appreciate your heartbeat to say, I'm going to reach out to them. I'm going to email them. I'm going to stay engaged. I'm going to try to see how they're doing. That's been part of your role that you created, that God gave you, pastoral domestique. I'm convinced there's not one other pastoral domestique in the entire world. You are the only one.
I think that's because we made the name up.
We did.
So
You did.
It works out.
So thank you, brother,
My
for
pleasure.
your service.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Yeah.
I guess if you lead a team or a ministry, you probably shouldn't play favorites, but I'd like to invite my favorite person on the crew to the broadcast. Yeah.
Here I am.
Karina Hannikin, everybody. She is my faithful wife, hospitality, whatever needs to be done, team mom at Ends of the Earth Cycling. You've been there. You've seen the ministry from its inception. You served in the Philippines in April on a short-term project that was awesome and brought our kids on 2 tours this year. But you've seen the ministry change over the course of 8 years. You've seen new things happen. You've seen things that had to go away. Tell us a little bit about what changes have transpired and what you're excited about moving forward into 2020.
Yeah, so first, thanks for not changing my question because I've been practicing my answer all day in my head. But just to recap, the blog, for one, is huge. Being able to find a place to find the stories of impact has been crucial in keeping people up to date and on track with us. Having a podcast, I still don't know what podcasts do, but people enjoy making them and listening to them. Guys, I just gotta be honest. I'm sure your podcast is great. I know it is. Justin tells me. I also have 5 kids. No, but even like you said earlier, going on trips apart from each other, which is hard, but how could I say no to the Philippines, guys? Come on.
Yeah.
But it's been such an adventure to bring everyone with us, to have people come to us and say, I'm in. And for us to look at each other and go, all right, we got to make up another title.
Yeah.
But it's been really great. And everything that people have brought to the ministry, we get bombarded with new ideas all the time. Hey, you guys, you know what you should do? You should try this and you should try that. And if it were just Justin and I and Paul, like in the beginning, oh, heck no, we wouldn't be trying any of this stuff. But our team makes it possible. Our team says, yes, we can and we should, and we'll try it. And it's been incredible to see the growth, to see ideas come to life, like a wagon wheel tour, something that's been on my heart from a logistical standpoint of not having to pack up and move every night, but having someplace to call almost home every night, a better environment for our kids to come and be able to participate and get a little bit more rest than they normally would on a tour, has just been really incredible to see.
Family-friendly tours, international tours, 3-day tours, 1-day rides. It has really changed over the course of time, and we keep moving forward and keep seeking the Lord and staying true to what He called us to do, which is to promote and resource global youth ministry. Any idea that comes for us, we think you should ride for this cause or for that, we're not interested if it's not global youth, because we believe that the 1.8 billion youth in the world matter to God.
Amen.
And here in the United States, we have 90% of the world's youth ministry resources, but we only have 4% of the world's youth. And so this ministry is called by God specifically to promote and resource global youth ministries. We are an active bicycling community impacting youth globally. That's who we are. And I just want to say thank you to you publicly for all the sacrifices that you make on behalf of our kids and our family, and allowing me to go and travel and do crazy things. And super grateful for the times that you've come along as well. So thanks. Awesome. So we started the broadcast tonight, the State of the Union address, with our dear brother, Matt Crossan. I want to bring him back up to close us. He is a worship pastor in Union City, Tennessee. He's one of my best friends. He's an honorary crew member. I call him Cactus Beard.
Among other things.
He makes some bad biscuits.
Yeah, he does.
I call him Baby Boy. This past year, you did 3...
We call you Justin Queso.
This past year, you did 3 tours. You cycled like 500 miles in each tour. You had 3 months this summer that you rode 1,000 miles each month. What in the world?
I don't know. You did it with me one of those months.
Shout out to Jessica. Shout out to your amazing kids.
Absolutely.
They are so supportive. Nathan Thomas, I love you. My boy, I love Nathan, but I love the rest of them too. I wanted to ask you to pray for 2020. If you would close the broadcast by praying for our crew, praying for the riders, for the support staff that are going to come, for the global youth, for whatever God puts on your heart. Yeah. And sorry that we didn't have time for any on-air questions, but I hope you got your questions answered.
I don't know what denomination you're in, but I think God loves it when we just raise our hands to Him. Mm-hmm. So if you feel comfortable doing that where you're at, let's just raise our hands and just tell God that we love Him for a second. Mm-hmm. God, we're so thankful for the things that you've done in our lives, the things you've done through this ministry this year. We could have gone on and on and on and on. There's so many things that you've done. Your name has been spread, God. Your glory is gone on to other nations. Lord, I've seen people changed here in the States just by coming on a ride. Lord, my own family, my own life has been changed. And God, we just give you the glory and the honor right now for those things. God, we surrender all that to you. And we don't lay a claim to any of it. We know that you provided every single platform that we got to step on. And we're thankful that you led us there, even though it was hard, even though there were moments of doubt, even though we weren't sure how things were going to work out, God. You brought the funds, you brought the riders, God, you brought the beneficiaries. Lord, you brought it all. And we just are thankful that you hold it all for us. And so, God, as we turn our eyes towards 2020 and the things you're going to do, Lord, Lord, we come open-handed. Lord, we come in a place of surrender. Lord, we come with wiped expectations, because we know that you dream bigger, God. You go further. You go faster than we could ever go. And so, God, we lay them in your hands. These are our plans, and the Bible says, your word says that we can make our plans, but you direct our steps. And there's this fragileness, God. You allow us in this creative process, but then you also say, hey, I'm going to do this, and it's going to be better. And so, God, we've made plans, but Lord, you direct our steps. Direct In Cycling's steps. God, bring new riders. God, bring new people. Raise up new missionaries, God, this year. Or may there be, have to have 2 State of the Unions for the year just to talk about all the testimonies that are going on, God. Lord, we love you so much, and we're so thankful for you. Lord, thank you for the men and women who lay their lives down for this ministry, for this cause. God bless their families. God bless their finances. Lord, protect their hearts, protect their minds, protect their souls. God, protect their relationships with you. Lord, we love you, and we praise you, and it's Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you guys for joining the State of the Union. It's been an awesome night. We've got a couple other people here tonight. Shout out to Deb Moker here with us. Shout out to Pastor Dan Creel, who's here with us. He's actually hosting the first ever Alumni and Family Weekend. If you're anywhere near Gettysburg, come hang out at Swift Run Church. Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday morning. It's going to be a great time. Even if you didn't sign up, come on by, grab some good food, and get on a bike and pray, pedal, repeat. We love you guys.